All right. I think we're leaving them with some tips.
Yes, tips and resources. Absolutely. Yeah, so these are just three quick tips that touch on and help kind of summarize a bit what we have talked about today. So the first one, complement, not compete in the job application process. Part of the mindset is very competitive. I think a lot of us have probably spent time of thinking who else is applying for this job? What skills and abilities do they have? How do I match up? And certainly those are natural thoughts, and certainly those are things to think about. And I think there's some positives for those types of considerations. If you get fully immersed in that, it can be overwhelming, and ultimately it becomes one of those scenarios where you'll never fully know. So that can, as we think of kind of mental well-being and health, I think that sometimes can have some unfortunate negative aspects. Another way to think about this and to apply it more directly is the idea that sometimes path to yes is a bunch of no's. There are some, as I think of the business archives community, some other sectors as it relates to archives, part of the career path is to apply several times to that institution with the thought that that is a path to be able to land a position by showing a dedicated perseverance to the role, and also as part of this longer evaluative criteria. This idea of trying to maintain a very positive outlook, even if it can be a struggle, if it can be challenging, and this idea that the job application process could be a wider lens than you may be anticipating or what you're being told. To be able to maintain that perspective, I think, can be really helpful. Number two, Rachel noted this before in terms of automating your search. I know I'm talking to a fair amount of information management professionals, so I imagine a lot of you are aware of the tools and resources to be able to have alerts. Google Alerts is one of many. We would encourage you to combine maybe some of the searches you're already doing with some of the adjacency terms, that we've noted before. And I think really to think about how you'll want to focus your energy. I know there's a proactive way of looking on job boards, being able to look at listservs, looking at wonderful sites such as Archives Gig, which can aggregate that, but also encouraging being able to have some of the targeted information or some of the background research you want to do on a role be able to come to you. And so again, there's a plethora of those resources out there, some of which you all may have some wonderful expertise in, but really encouraging you to kind of then have that be a filter for thinking about your job search and career. And then to the next point, I know, Rachel, this is something that you've spoken well to and have been able to talk to, but really the idea of capturing the essence of your skills.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at the job posts, like when we looked at the Netflix job posts together, there are so many of us in the field that have 7+ years experience, have archives management experience, like we tick the boxes. So to individualize yourself, capturing the essence of your skills beyond those check marks, I think could be incredibly beneficial, especially when you consider the cover letters that you need to write, which is supposed to be how you introduce yourself as an individual, and talk about, I believe the term is dragon slaying stories for your cover letter. Like you're supposed to talk about a dragon slaying story of like how you were awesome at something. So, what is it that you do that you just kick butt at and like really helps to capture the essence of who you are as an archivist and what you bring to the collection and the work that you do. And I not only is that great to think of yourself in those specific terms, but it's also incredibly helpful to the people who are trying to find their person to work with. So I encourage people to think and brainstorm on that creatively, in terms of how you first identifying that and then communicating it. And Ryan, just quickly before we move on, I just wanted to underscore the point you made of the complement, not compete. And I think especially when we're in like job hunting mode, and even us as consultants, I think the traditional framework used to be if you're applying for the job, then you're in competition. But that doesn't exclude you being on the same team. Now, if it's a sports metaphor, that doesn't work, obviously, but it's like, yes, we could both be putting in a job application or a proposal or something for the same job, but we're also on the same team. And Ryan, that's partly why I enjoy working with you so much, is that even though we may be in competition for certain jobs, we're also on the same team in terms of we're both consultants in the field, we're both leaders in this industry, and especially in the Pacific Northwest. And that there's so much good we can do together when we're on the same team, even though we might be in competition in a couple areas. So I just wanted to highlight like the benefits of like you can be in competition, that's not a bad thing, but just also make sure that you don't lose sight of being on the same team.
That was beautifully said, Rachel, and I completely agree. To go further with that sports metaphor and thinking about the recent Olympics, I mean,
Mhm. Yeah.
there can be team events and also individual ones, but ultimately it's to better everybody. And you have inspired me, Rachel, with the work you've done. You've given, wonderful ideas about how to approach certain challenges. And so that's something we share. And I think, to be able to think about that more broadly,
Mhm.
even when you're doing the job seeking, which can feel very adversarial, is something to definitely keep in mind. And also, just to say, it is still, relatively speaking, a small field. So,
Yeah.
someone someone that you may feel competitive against may be the hiring manager, or you may be the hiring manager down the line. So that's also something to keep in mind too.
Yes, 100%.